In this video, we'll be putting the REI Trailmade 2 through tons of different tests, and we'll also see exactly how it stacks up against these other tents that are of about the same price. Is REI's cheapest tent worth it? Let's find out. The retail price of this tent comes in at about $200, but I picked this up for about 30% off during one of REI's regular sales, so I think I paid about $140 for this. Here's all the different tents you'll find in this video, along with their manufacturer's suggested retail price, plus the prices that I paid for all these tents myself, which are all pretty reasonable. Now, out of the box, this is what I got. The carry bag, the tent body, the rain fly, 2 poles, 4 guidelines, a pole repair splint, and 10 stakes. And here's how to set up the Trailmade. First, grab the tent body, which comes with a pre-attached footprint, and place them both on the ground. Then crisscross the 2 poles over each other in an X, and secure each end into the grommets in the 4 corners. After that, secure the 13 pole clips around the tent. These clip the body onto the poles, and there are also no pole sleeves here. After that, drape the rainfly over the poles, aligning the vestibule doors over the tent doors, and also making sure that the REI logo is on the outside of one of the widths. The rainfly secures easily with not just 4 pole wraps, but also 4 easy clip buckles at the bottom. Then stake the vestibules down and guy out the guidelines. Altogether, the entire setup takes about 5.5 minutes. Taking down the Trailmade is just the opposite of the setup, and it took slightly longer, about 6 minutes. Everything compacted down nicely, and the carry bag was quite a bit bigger than it needed to be. For more details, I have a separate video with loads of instructions and tips to help you set up your tent more easily. Now, here's how the Trailmade compares to the other budget tents. The setup and packaway timings are quite similar. They're all within only a minute from each other. The peak height in the Trailmade 2 comes in at about 40 inches. I'm only about 5'3", so even with a 4-inch thick sleeping pad in the tent, there was still plenty of headroom left for me. As for the sidewalls, this tent doesn't have any vertical ones at all. The pole structure is very simple. It's just 2 poles crisscrossing over each other to form an X, with no extra ridge pole at the top. So the peak height is only at the center. The walls slope downwards for the rest of the tent, not just on the length, but also on the width. For the base area, I measured the length, and that came in at about 86 inches. As for the width, that comes in at about 49 inches. So overall, that's a total base area of about 29.3 square feet. Now, what is the pad sizing like? This is an Exped Megamet Duo 10, which is the size of 2 regular pads put together, and here's what it looks like right in the middle of the tent. The leftover room at the lengths is about 6 inches on each side, so pretty good lengthwise, but the leftover room at the width is only less than 3 inches on either side. The width is quite short, so you can't really fit anything apart from 2 regular pads. Here's how the Trailmade compares to the other tents, not just in terms of height, but also length, width, and inner base area. It's definitely the smallest on the list. For the most livable space, I'd go with the Teton, simply because there's a lot more room in there thanks to the ridge pole at the very top. The Trailmade comes with 2 vestibules though, one at the front, the other at the back, and the width of each vestibule comes in at about 26.5 inches. So on top of the base area from before, this gives us an extra 8 square feet for each vestibule, or a total of almost 16 square feet for both vestibules. To set up the vestibule, just use this black webbing to stake it down. To adjust the tension, just pull down on the vestibule until it feels taut, but not overly tight, and then pull on the front strap to tighten. On the other hand, to loosen it, just lift up the buckle from the front and the whole thing will come loose. This vestibule has only 2 configurations. First, half open, then you open the right panel and keep the fabric tied up using this toggle by the side. And second, completely closed. The left panel doesn't have a toggle, so there's no way to just keep the whole vestibule open. I checked the zippers on the vestibule. They're YKK top of the line zippers, and there's one at the bottom plus one more at the top. So overall, very nice two-way zippers. The zippers have never snagged on me, so it's a very good zipping experience. Compared to the other tents, the vestibule area is bigger than most. The zipper brand is great too. The only thing it lacks is more vestibule loops and toggles for more different configurations. Another good thing about the Trailmade is that the vestibule curves slightly at the top, and the toggle packs everything up quite tightly, so there's no droopy fabric like in other tents. This makes getting in and out quite a bit easier than in other tents, and it doesn't even scrape past my back when I stand up. Under the vestibules, we have 2 doors, one on each side of the tent. The doors come in at about 37 by 34 inches, which is kind of big, making for decent cross ventilation. And to keep the doors open, there's a toggle by the side to hold the fabric out of the way. Each door has 2 zippers. They're both YKK zippers, so overall, again, very nice 2-way zippers. It's also completely snag-free. The size of the doors are kind of at average compared to other tents, with the only huge door tent being the Alps Mountaineering Lynx. But the Trailmade is the only one with, again, YKK zippers, and the only improvement I'd make is having pockets for stowing the door fabric instead of the toggles that I showed you, because it's just more user-friendly with the pockets instead. For storage, there are only 2 pockets in this tent, one in each opposite corner. Each pocket isn't super big, measuring only about 14 inches across by 5 inches from top to bottom, and there is 1 loop at the very top of the tent with no other storage options. Compared to the other tents, the Trailmade definitely lacks storage and could use a lot more. Now, we're going to move on to the waterproofing features, and the first one is the tub floor. The height at the tub at the widths come in at about 6 inches, and so does the height at the lengths, so it's just 6 inches throughout the whole tent. The next feature is the seam taping. One of the lengths of the tent at the bottom of the tub floor comes with this seam that runs from corner to corner, and it was taped. At each corner too, all the seams were also perfectly taped. The seam taping goes up only about 6 inches and stops there. Everything else above here isn't taped. As for rainfly, every single seam was taped perfectly, and you can see the outline of the seam taping. Next, we have the rainfly vents, one facing the left, the other facing the right, so 2 altogether. When held open with the Velcro kickstand, the ankle faces sideways instead of downwards, which isn't great and tends to leak in a heavy rain, so we'll have to check this out later. The last feature is the full coverage rainfly. It extends almost all the way down to the ground, leaving just a small gap at the bottom. However, this tent cannot be staked down or guyed out at the widths, which isn't great for rain protection and ventilation, so let's see how it does in the heavy rain test in just a bit. For now, here's how the Trailmade compares to the other tents in terms of waterproof features. The Teton Mountain Ultra beats the Trailmade, but at least the Trailmade is still better than the Alps, which I thought the seam taping wasn't as good and it leaked, and the Kelty doesn't have any vents at all. If you're wondering, here are the rain test conditions. The rain started off not too heavy at about 11 a.m. and turned into a downpour by 4 p.m. and it continued raining non-stop super heavily all the way until the wee hours of the morning. Overall, based on the official rain intensities, I'd estimate about 12 hours of moderate rain and 12 hours of heavy rain. 24 hours of rain later, when the rain became much lighter, I decided to check in on the tent, and here are the results. The first thing I noticed in the tent were 2 small puddles of water right in the middle. These had leaked through the vents at the top because this type of vent angle usually always leaks in the heavy rain for me. Luckily, we can shut these vents from the inside of the tent, even in the rain, by just unzipping the door and reaching over a little bit, so not a super big issue overall. Otherwise, the rest of the tent is actually pretty dry. The flooring looks wet, but when I checked it, none of the water had seeped through. Well, except for this corner right here because it was sitting in a whole pool of water. The amount of leakage wasn't the worst I've seen. I think it's a pretty manageable little puddle of water, especially considering that it rained non-stop for 24 hours. From the outside, I lifted the rainfly and noticed that the water had gone beyond the top floor on the widths, but somehow, for some strange reason, it didn't leak on the inside. Overall, the damage is pretty minimal, so I think the flooring and seam taping held up fine. For our last waterproof feature, rainfly, at about the 5 to 6 hour mark, I noticed that the rain flap has started to soak through. But apart from that, the rest of the rain flap was still dry from the inside, so again, this tent held up pretty well. Now, how does it compare to the other tents? It definitely comes up on top, on par with the Teton Mountain Ultra, and beats out other budget brands like the Kelty and Alps Mountaineering. When you take the rain flap off, this is what you'll find underneath. I would say that this is about 50% mesh, so not the most I've seen, but when you lie down in the tent, you can still stargaze and look at views. If you're camping in summer and need more mesh, the Trailmade isn't the best. The Teton or the Kelty has way more mesh. The Lynx is for off-season camping and the Trailmade is just somewhere in between. As for materials, the flooring is 75D polyester taffeta coated with polyurethane, and the tent body that extends up the walls of the tent beyond the floor is just 75D polyester taffeta. The rain is 75D polyester, also with a PU coating. The poles are made of aluminum. The mesh is 40D nylon no-seam mesh, and you can see how the holes of the mesh compare to a bunch of other insects that were like camping out under my tent as well. The guy out points have a reflective strip each. The guy lines are regular shot cord with an easy to use tensioner, and the stakes are your regular cheap shepherd hook stakes. Here's how the materials of all the different tents stack up against each other. The Teton's materials are by far the best, followed by the Trailmade and the Lynx, and lagging behind is the Kelty with just super thin materials all around. Some additional info, this Trailmade meets flammability requirements and it's a product of Vietnam. For portability, the Trailmade 2 has a pack size of 21 by 9 by 6.5 inches. If you're packing a pole separate from the rest of the tent body, the pack length is about 18 inches. There's a hand grip here, which you can use to pick the tent up, and the whole pack tent weighs about 5 pounds. I'll leave a breakdown of all the parts of the tent here in case you need them. And here's how the Trailmade stacks up against the rest of the tents. It's quite a bit more lightweight. If you're wondering why the package weight of the Trailmade is a little bit lower here, it's because I took out the weight of the footprint. And that takes us into the pros and cons. The first pro being that this Trailmade is the only one of the 4 tents that come with a footprint. And you also have the option of pre-attaching the footprint, and here are the exact steps to do so. First, grab the toggle on the footprint and loop it through the opening in the webbing of the tent body. Then double back and loop the toggle back through the opening in the strap of the footprint. Just do this for all 4 corners and you're done. When you pre-attach the footprint, there's no extra setup timing at all. The footprint just sticks to the tent body and you lay them both out together. So looking at the price tag, you get a really good tent brand for a really low price on par with the rest of the tents here. And of course, as I went through all of these tests on the screen here, you can go back and refer to them. The Trailmade also did surprisingly well in the rain for such an inexpensive tent. The seam taping was perfect and the waterproof coating kept 24 hours of rain out. It's also more lightweight compared to the other budget brands that I showed you, although it's nothing like an ultralight tent of course. However, the biggest con is that the warranty REI gives is only 1 year, which is not very generous. The rest of the brands here offer a lifetime warranty. On top of that, I thought the quality wasn't the best for a number of reasons. First, as time went on, I started noticing more and more mesh runs on the doors. And second, the rainfly isn't a fantastic fit, and I found it difficult to get it fully taut without any creases. But luckily, even though I read lots of reviews talking about their pole tips falling out, I didn't have any of those issues at all. And the smaller con is that there is no footprint only setup, if that's what you're looking for, because there are no grommets on the Trailmade's footprint. Overall, while the Trailmade definitely beat out the Alps Mountaineering Lynx and the Kelty Late Start, there's one tent here that's quite a bit better, and that's the Teton Mountain Ultra. It has a higher peak height, more base area, more vertical walls, more storage, higher quality materials all around, more mesh, equally good waterproofing. Plus, you can guy it out at all 4 sides. It even has a lifetime warranty, no mesh runs, and no saggy rainfly. If you want to find out how the Teton compares to the REI, you can check out this video on the screen for way more in-depth comparisons and test scores. I hope you'll like it.